Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here. I need you to stop what you're doing and look at the number on your screen right now. The mathematical countdown to a total COMEX failure has officially begun. This is no longer a prediction. This is a delivery notice that simply cannot be met. China just executed a specific physical offtake maneuver that drains the last drops of registered liquidity from the Western vaults. We are staring down the barrel of a force majeure event within the next 24 hours. The banks are trapped, the metal is gone, and the only legal exit they have left is to steal your position. Let's look at the data coming out of the Shanghai Gold Exchange right now. The premiums on silver in Shanghai have just hit a record spread against the Western spot price. We are talking about a divergence that should be mathematically impossible in a functioning global market. In a normal world, the big bullion banks, JP Morgan, HSBC, would see this spread and arbitrage it instantly. They would buy the cheap silver in London or New York, put it on a plane to Shanghai, sell it for the higher price, and pocket the difference. It is free money. It is the risk-free trade that keeps the global price aligned. But look at the shipping manifests. They aren't doing it. And that is the terrifying signal that nobody on CNBC is talking about. The arbitrage is dead. The banks are not shipping metal east to capture this massive profit because they physically cannot get their hands on the bars. The inventory that the COMEX claims to have in its warehouses is a mirage. It is either stuck, encumbered by leasing agreements, or already re-hypothecated to 3 different ETFs and a solar manufacturer. China knows this. They have called the bluff. They are not buying futures contracts to speculate on the price going up or down. They are taking immediate physical delivery of 1,000-ounce industrial bars. They are draining the swamp. This is why we're seeing backwardation in the futures curve. That is a fancy word for panic. It means the spot price for immediate delivery is higher than the price for delivery next month. That never happens in a healthy market because it costs money to store metal. When the spot price rips higher than the future price, it means the market is screaming for physical metal right now. The prompt month contract is trading at a premium because nobody trusts that the metal will be there in 30 days. Think of this like a run on a bank. You walk into the lobby and the vault door is wide open. It looks impressive. It looks secure. But when you walk up to the teller and ask for your withdrawal, the drawer is empty. The manager is sweating. He points to the vault and says, "Look at all that gold." But he won't let you touch it. That is exactly what is happening between New York and Shanghai right now. The vault door is open, but the drawers are empty. This is the Shanghai vacuum. The voracious industrial demand coming from the Chinese solar and EV sectors has created a black hole that the London vaults cannot fill. We have done the math on the solar consumption numbers before, but you have to understand the velocity. They are swallowing silver faster than the miners can pull it out of the ground. The West has been suppressing the price by selling paper receipts, pretending that supply is infinite to keep the dollar strong. But the East is demanding the physical metal to build the energy grid of the future. The paper game works fine until someone asks for the real thing. And right now, China is asking for it all. The metal is moving east, but the paper receipts are stuck in New York. And this disconnection is about to snap the spine of the entire market. This brings us to the mechanism of the trap itself. For 40 years, the Western financial system has relied on a specific arbitrage loop between London and New York to keep the price of silver suppressed. It worked like a perfectly oiled machine. The bullion banks would sell massive amounts of paper contracts on the COMEX to drive the price down, scaring retail investors out of their positions. If anyone actually stood for delivery, well, the math has changed. And it changed because of 2 specific variables: interest rates and backwardation. When interest rates were at 0, it cost the banks almost nothing to hold these massive short positions for months or years. They could wait you out forever. But now, with rates hovering around 5%, the cost of carrying that short position is bleeding them dry. Every single day the market stays open, they are paying millions in interest on positions that are deeply underwater. They are fighting the Fed's own policy. This isn't just a trading loss anymore, it is a structural hemorrhage. This is where the exchange for physical, or EFP, comes into play. This is the critical failure point that almost nobody is discussing. The EFP is the escape hatch. It allows traders to swap a futures contract in New York for physical metal in London. Usually, this is the busiest door in the casino. But right now, the EFP mechanism has seized up. The volume has evaporated. Why? Because nobody wants dollars in London anymore. They want the metal in hand. The counterparties in London are refusing to take the paper. They know the vaults are being drained by the East and they don't want to be left holding the bag when the music stops. Think of it like this. The banks have been selling tickets to a concert that already happened. For years, they sold millions of tickets to a stadium that only holds 50,000 people. They bet the entire house that 99% of the ticket holders would just trade the tickets back and forth for a quick profit. They bet that you would never actually show up to the gate. But now, the audience has realized the scam. Everyone is showing up at the turnstiles at the same time. They don't want a refund. They don't want a cash settlement. They want to see the show. And the banks are standing there with a handful of folding chairs, realizing the stage is empty. If you don't believe me, look at the lease rates. This is the panic signal flashing red on the dashboard. Right now, banks are paying exorbitant fees just to borrow silver for 24 hours. Why would a bank with supposedly record inventories pay 10% or 20% annualized interest just to borrow a bar of silver for a day? There's only one reason. They need it to pass an audit. They are leasing metal to put it on the shelf, snapping a photo for the regulators, and then shipping it right back out the door. It is a desperate shell game designed to hide the fact that the physical float is gone. They are shuffling the same bars back and forth to hide the hole. Now let's do the math on how deep that hole really is. To understand the magnitude of this fraud, I need you to open the latest COMEX warehouse report. Do not look at the headline number. That number is a lie designed to keep you calm. You have to look at the breakdown between two very specific columns, registered and eligible. The entire solvency of the Western financial system currently hangs on the difference between these two words. Registered silver is the only metal that actually matters. This is the inventory that has a warrant attached to it. It is sitting on the shelf, fully unencumbered, and ready for immediate delivery to settle a futures contract. It is the only liquid supply in the entire building. Eligible silver is a completely different animal. This is metal that is sitting in the COMEX vaults, but it is not for sale. It is privately owned. It belongs to family offices, sovereign wealth funds, and smart investors who are simply paying the vault to store their property. It is not available to the market. It is not available to bail out JP Morgan's short position. It is private property that just happens to be parked in their garage. Here is the trick. The banks and the exchanges love to combine these two numbers to show a massive total inventory. They point to the eligible pile and say, "Look at all this silver. There's plenty of supply." It is a fabrication. That is like a car dealership pointing to the cars in the customer parking lot and claiming they are for sale. They aren't. Those cars belong to people who are inside shopping. They have no intention of selling their vehicle to you just because the dealer ran out of inventory. When you strip away the eligible illusion, the math becomes terrifying. The registered silver at COMEX, the actual available supply, is at historic lows. We are talking about a razor-thin buffer that barely covers a single day of heavy trading volume. If just 2 or 3 major industrial entities stood for delivery on the same day, the registered category would hit 0. The cupboard is bare. The banks are banking on the idea that the owners of the eligible silver will suddenly decide to sell if the price ticks up a few dollars. But they are wrong. The people holding eligible silver are the strong hands. They are the apes, the long-term holders, and the strategic reserves. They are refusing to sell at these suppressed prices. They are watching the same data we are, and they are locking the vault doors. Now, I want you to look at the leverage ratio. This is the smoking gun. Take the total number of open paper contracts, the open interest, and divide it by the actual ounces in the registered category. The ratio is vertical. We are currently looking at a situation where it is mathematically impossible to cover even 10% of the open interest. For every single ounce of physical silver sitting in the registered category, there are hundreds of paper claims fighting for it. This is a game of musical chairs where there are 500 people circling one single chair. And the music is about to stop. But it gets even darker. We have compelling evidence of massive re-hypothecation. This is the dirty secret of the bullion banks. That one single chair, that one bar of registered silver, it has likely been leased to an ETF, promised to a solar manufacturer, and used as collateral for a futures contract simultaneously. They have sold the same house to 3 different families. It is a Ponzi scheme built on the assumption that nobody will ever ask for the keys at the same time. But China just asked for the keys. When 5 people have a claim on one bar, 4 people are getting 0. That brings us to the force majeure clause. Most people assume force majeure is reserved for acts of God, a hurricane destroying a port or an earthquake swallowing a vault. They are wrong. In the context of the COMEX, force majeure is not a disaster. It is a strategy. It is a rule change buried deep in the fine print of the exchange rulebook, designed specifically to protect the house when the casino runs out of chips. It is the legal mechanism for theft. Here's the scenario that is about to unfold. When the bullion banks realize they physically cannot deliver the silver they sold to China, they will not declare bankruptcy. They will not admit defeat. Instead, they will declare irregular market conditions. Within 24 hours of a delivery failure, the exchange will suspend trading. The ticker will stop moving. And then they will invoke the cash settlement clause. This is the ultimate trap. When they can't deliver the metal, they will force you to accept a cash payout. But here's the kicker. They will determine the price. It will be a fair value, decided by a committee of the very same bankers who are currently short the market. You bought a contract to protect yourself from inflation. You entered the trade to get silver. But you will be forced to leave with fiat currency, dollars that are being printed into oblivion, while they keep the physical metal to save the strategic industrial supply chain. They will settle your contract at the last traded price before the halt, not the true market price skyrocketing in the streets. They will hand you paper that is burning, and they will lock the doors to the vault. We have seen this exact playbook executed before. Look at the LME nickel crisis. When a massive short squeeze threatened to bankrupt a major Chinese tycoon and the banks backing him, the London Metal Exchange didn't just halt trading. They canceled billions of dollars in completed trades. They literally rewound the tape and deleted the transactions of legitimate buyers to save the insiders from insolvency. They proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the casino is rigged. Or look at the Hunt brothers in 1980. When the insiders were losing control of the silver price, they changed the margin rules overnight. They made it illegal to buy, only legal to sell. They changed the rules because they were losing the game. That is the history of Western finance. They privatized the gains and socialized the losses. And right now, they are facing a loss that dwarfs 1980. The moment the registered inventory hits zero, the COMEX will claim they are freezing the market to protect stability. If you hold SLV, if you hold unallocated pool accounts, or if you hold futures contracts, you need to understand your legal standing. You're not an owner of silver. You are an unsecured creditor of a failing institution. You are a line item on a balance sheet that is about to be liquidated. When the force majeure is declared, you will get a check for the paper price. And the physical silver will be gone, shipped to Shanghai to build the energy infrastructure of the next century. This is not a theory. This is the terms of service you agreed to when you bought the paper. The window to convert your paper promises into physical reality is closing. We are not talking about months or weeks anymore. We are talking about hours. Do not let them buy you out with a check that will bounce in real terms. Do not accept the settlement. It is a trap to strip you of real assets. Get the metal in your hand or lose it forever. Do the math.